So Joe Rogan apologized today for spreading misinformation, I believe it was.
He went, not only did he apologize, he went on an apology tour of sorts.
So so I've been listening to Joe Rogan since the Snowflakes Brian Redband days. So the very first episodes.
Yeah, you made me listen to him, so I have to.
So he's been preaching the whole time about essentially work for yourself so you don't have to put up with the stuff that you have to put up with the corporations and this, that, and the other thing. Now, with all that said, his new deal with Spotify is worth $100 million. So,
but he also said, though, with the Spotify thing, that it was
nothing was going to change. It's just they're going to upload all his content and everything. And I think he really believed all that would happen. And I think it's been so long since he worked for a corporation that every word that he says was going to be dissected. You know, like when he was the Fear Factor guy. I mean, not that it was scripted, but everything was laid out on Fear Factor. He wasn't going to be all that controversial on there, right? Mm-hmm. So anything he says outside of work is like a whole other thing. Well, with Spotify, the work is the show as far as what they bought. And so whatever he says on there now opens the doors for the cancel culture to come attack them and say this, that, and the other thing. And like every corporation, they fold when it comes down to these people who relentlessly report stuff and say that this, that, or the other thing should be taken down, or they disagree with it, or this is hate speech, or you know, whatever the angle they're coming at it with for whatever episode and thing. So not only is he going to have to apologize for every episode that he already put out, he's going to have to continually keep in mind like the guests he has on and what they might say, and just entertaining all these things he never would have had he not made that deal. Now I have no problem with the deal. I actually like the fact that he is now using that money to buy a plot of land in Texas.
$100 million.
Yep.
Sorry, kids.
Yeah, you're gonna have to play ball a little bit.
$100 million?
People are gonna be mad about that. Me being one of them, I thought it was unfortunate. I didn't like seeing him on there, like apologizing for.
Well, what's the story?
So essentially, from what I read, was the apology I saw was essentially about he was, and a lot of people have done this already. There was a fake Facebook article going around saying that certain members of some certain political sect were starting fires all over Oregon, right?
Yeah.
And he had quoted one saying that this Antifa person was going around starting fires. Well, this was an actual Facebook post that the Medford Police Department in Oregon had to put out a thing saying, we didn't actually arrest anyone for this. This is a fake Facebook post. So,
has anything ever happened in Oregon?
Lots of people got by it. I believe there was even a sheriff from Oregon who got in trouble for repeating this information as well. The Facebook fact checkers, I guess, didn't catch it in time before it got out.
The Facebook fact checkers are getting so bad that one of my friends posted a Prairie, Oregon that had a deer in a river, and of course the forest is on fire behind them, and they fact checked it, and it's got the Facebook fact check on it, because that is not actually a picture of Oregon, it's actually a picture of Montana.
Oh, got it.
And when you look at the fact check, it's not even in English, it's in Spanish. So you have to translate. And me being a dumb American, I had to look it up in Spanish.
Good thing for Google Translate.
All I saw was El Montana, and I'm like, okay, well, it's probably because it wasn't.
I can do you one better. On Daydream Nation's page, I posted actual photographs of Bill Clinton getting a massage from a woman he claimed to have never met and never been to the island. I got fact checked, and it said could be misleading. Mind you, it's a photograph. And they didn't say why it could be misleading. She was not a minor while she was massaging him in the picture, but she was an underage sex slave.
Would she identify as an 18-year-old?
No, she was 22 at the time, but when she first got recruited and groomed by Jeffrey Epstein, she was 15. And so grooming. Clinton had said that she...
That's such a fun word, right? Grooming.
So Clinton had said that he had never met this woman, yada, yada, yada. Well, these pictures came out showing that he got a massage from her. I posted the pictures, and they said they could be misleading because they lack context.
Okay, so what happened with the Joe Rogan apology? What's going on there?
No, so that's what I was basically getting to with that, is that I understand it, but it's still a little disheartening, especially with knowing his stand on everything. I think the silver lining is that after this deal is over, that $100 million and everything he wanted to create, he was able to do it, and he'll probably go back to working for himself at that point. and generating the best content possible.
Do you
without
remember how
worrying
many
about,
years this is for? His
I
contract?
don't recall the details.
It was
of
only
the
like,
contract,
it's not
but-
very long. It's like 5 years or
Yeah.
something.
And I don't know, like, maybe he gets 50 million in and he gets tired of it and says, you know, I'm done with it or what have you. But I just don't. This is what I'm concerned about. Isn't the apology so much as how it's going to affect every episode from here on out. Like, this is going to, if you're just as a human being, you're going to have to be entertaining things that you never entertained before
Well,
or worried about with certain guests and things of that sort. Like, before he would just attack a topic that he was curious about with a guest. And now he's going to have to be constantly thinking, am I misstepping here? How do I
He's
say
going to
this
have
without...
to think like he's running a company.
Yes, yeah, he's going to have to go corporate.
He's going to have to be PC.
Which is, anyone who watches this show knows exactly why you watch the shows, because it's not that. It's a 3-hour free-form interview where people just say what they want without fear of repercussion, and now that's gone. So that's what's disheartening to me.
Well, and both of us follow Joe Rogan on every single one of his platforms, and every single one of his platforms, he had like 2 paragraphs worth of apology. I get correcting yourself. I totally get that. What I don't understand is someone like Joe Rogan, who, I mean, this is just a podcast.
Yeah.
He's not a politician, and that's
Right.
that's where I was going to go with this. Politicians on both sides constantly lie and constantly manipulate facts, but there's no repercussions for them. So why is there repercussions for Joe Rogan?
Right.
Because I can tell you, these politicians are probably making as much money as Joe Rogan, if not more. I mean, these politicians, I'm going to get fact checked here, but their salaries are only in the $100,000 to $200,000
I believe
range.
Nancy Pelosi is worth like $250 million or something.
But their annual salaries are only, and you can fact check me on this, but only like $100,000 to $200,000 a year.
Yeah, but then they get paid at least that much to give speeches at these large corporations who they aren't doing favors for. But
so that was my point. Is I get that he wanted to be factual with his podcast, but that's not at least what he set out to be.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a sad day all around with that situation. So not that I don't understand it, but it's just I was hoping I would never see this day.
I know, and he's probably got inundated with emails and comments, and
he always has. I feel like he never paid
but he
attention
always
to
claims
any of it.
he always claims on his podcast he never reads comments.
That's
on
right,
anything.
but that's the thing. It's Spotify does though. Spotify has a actual HR department that gets reports from everybody who's saying like this, that, or the other thing about their content.
I feel like Spotify should have known what they were getting into.
If they didn't, they're idiots because
it's not PC.
You knew what you were acquiring. When you pay $100 million for something, you better dot all your I's and cross your T's in your research and listen to every minute of everything he's ever said, because you're now in bed with that person for a ridiculous amount of money. And if you didn't know this was coming and you weren't prepared for it, that's extra sad. And same thing on Rogan's side of things. You had to know that once you got into bed with a corporation, that means that you're now required to do the dance that you have to do when you work for a corporation. So.
And a lot of these corporations tend to lean to the liberal side, so you're gonna have to play the PC ball.
And even if they don't lean that way for their actual political way they vote and everything, as far as socially, as far as their reviews on their page and things like that, they very much lean. They cater toward the person complaining. 100%.
And when I say liberal, I don't mean like your average Democrat voter. I mean like politicians.
Ideology, yes. Yeah.
Because I think that most liberal voters are pretty reasonable people, but he has to cater down to the far end of that.
Yes.
I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yep. You now have to answer the lowest common denominator when you never would have before. I imagine $100 million makes a lot of this okay, but eventually I feel like it'll take the toll, knowing at least from the things that he said in the past about his outlook on life, is he's not going to be happy about having to do all this.
You're talking about some of the earlier things because the PC police have already attacked him on what Joey Diaz said about
the fact that he was
getting-
laughing while he said it.
he was getting sexual favors essentially to put people, because he owned a comedy club
Right.
or a bar.
Yeah.
Bar/comedy club. Joey Diaz did.
Yep.
And so he was getting
So he had
he
power
joked
over
about how
people
he's
and-
getting sexual favors
Right.
to put women on stage.
Yeah.
So they already went after him on that, and thankfully, Joe Rogan, he came out of there basically okay,
Unscathed, yeah.
unscathed. So I don't agree with a lot of, like, that's what the First Amendment is for, is to protect the people that don't have the popular opinion.
Right.
Even though I may not agree with it, you should be able to say what you want without making, as long as you're not making death threats and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Hate speech in general. I don't believe that certain name calling should be classified as hate speech myself,
Do you have
because
an example?
well, here's a better way of doing it without getting myself in trouble. So the saying "sticks and stones may break my bones" was always a saying growing up as a kid, and so people would say all sorts of stuff about you while you were a kid going to school, what you're wearing, clowning you for any sort of thing.
And
right?
as a kid, it's hard to ignore.
It is, and it's tough, but it does present a certain quality of toughness if you come out the other
Oh, I
side.
100% agree. I mean, those kids are the ones that are, either makes you
It
or
has
breaks
made it so that I can get called something to my face and it's not going to wreck my entire week.
Yeah.
Whereas some people, even you see it online all the time, somebody disagrees with them and it's like you just took a shit right in their Cheerios. Like,
Which is why I like Joe Rogan saying, #beer burps. Cloud burps. Sorry. Which is why, like I said earlier, I like that Joe Rogan didn't read comments.
yes,
It's kind of the same thing as both you and I are managers, and I guess I'll speak for myself, but I'm going to guess you go through the same thing. People are going to say bad things about you.
Yep.
Your workers are going to say bad things about you. It's just part of management. You can be the best manager in the world, but
Yep.
there's going to be somebody hating on you.
and I am.
So it is sad, because especially, I mean,
It's a new day.
the apology, like, I didn't have a problem with the apology. It was to the extent on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of his platforms, the extent he went to, like, it was a two-paragraph thing. It wasn't just, hey, I got this wrong, sorry about that. It was,
Yep.
I'm truly sorry. He said sorry probably 2 or 3 times in there. And it's like, okay, let's say
It's journalism 101. It's like they have a PR firm and they tell you, here's what you need to say to appease the crowd or whatever. And I'm not saying that a PR firm told him how to do that, but it read like a PR firm.
Yes.
It didn't read like a sincere, like, in past years, I feel like he wouldn't have ever put that out. He would have just put on his podcast like, hey, I got this one wrong. A lot of people are up in arms about it.
Exactly,
like, my bad. Like, I'm not a journalist.
I don't
didn't
think he
fact
needed
check
this.
everything.
I don't think he needed this. I'm truly sorry. Please don't kill me.
That seemed like a legal, like legally, we don't want to get sued, so put this out there.
But it's kind of my original point was, like, we are holding this guy who is just running a podcast, and it's people say whatever they want, including himself.
And he got so big now that it's...
Well, I mean, he was even saying stuff on his previous podcast. I mean, for one, I listened to his podcast with Tim Kennedy recently, and he said that Tim Kennedy originally said, remember why you're moving from California to Texas when you're voting. Remember what happened in California. Please don't bring it to Texas. And Joe Rogan agreed with that.
Yep.
I mean, like, and then kind of going back to my original point is, why are we holding Joe Rogan to such a high standard, but not our politicians?
Yeah.
And I mean politicians on both sides.
Yes.
Not just Democrats or Republicans. Both sides.
That is a great
Why
question.
why are we holding Joe Rogan to a higher standard than our elected officials that have actual control over us? Joe Rogan, no offense to the guy, doesn't have control over you and I.